Hello, church family. Welcome to another episode of Hymn Time. Today's hymn has been requested by two people, Cindy and Mindy. No, I'm not making that up. They both contacted me this week asking for me to talk about Morning Has Broken, probably one of the most well-known hymns to non-Christians who grew up listening to Cat Stevens. We'll get to Cat, but first let's look at where the tune came from. We will refer to the hymn by its traditional tune name, Bunessan. The tune has existed for an undetermined length of time as a Scottish folk tune. Bunessan, the village that gives the tune its name, is located on the Isle of Mull, off the west coast of Scotland. Bunessan is the largest settlement on the isle, with a population of a whopping 300. None of the research I've done has revealed when the tune was written, and that's the problem with getting historical data for folk tunes. They are passed down through oral tradition rather than written music. A folk tune could be 100 years old or 1,000 years old, and the longer it's been around, the more likely it is to have gone through significant melodic or lyrical revisions as it was passed from person to person. Composers of the Baroque, Classical, and Romantic eras were certainly inspired by folk music. We can hear it in Vivaldi's Seasons, Beethoven's Pastoral Symphony, and Dvorak's New World Symphony. But even those pieces were merely inspired by folk music, not direct transcriptions. It wasn't until the early 20th century that the idea of collecting folk tunes for study and preservation was formed. With the invention of music recording technology, ethnomusicologists like Bela Bartok in Europe, and both Francis Densmore and Alan Lomax in America could go out into the field and record folk music played in its natural environment. My point is, unless documentation exists of a composer writing and publishing a melody, we're going to have to be satisfied with the fact that the origin of most folk melodies remains shrouded in mystery. I think that's kind of cool. Back to Bunessan. The reason the tune is titled Bunessan in the first place is because the first published hymn using this melody comes from Mary MacDonald, a Scottish poet who lived in the area in the 1800s. In fact, if you're ever in the area, you can see the cairn dedicated to her just outside of town. Mary and her husband were crofters, renting out 12 acres of land to raise livestock, grow food, and do other odd jobs to make ends meet. Mary's poem was originally entitled Leaban Ane. It was a Christmas carol in Scottish Gaelic, the indigenous language of the Scots since the 13th century. While only about 1% of the Scottish population speak Gaelic currently, it would have been more widely understood in Mary's time. Here's a verse of the original Gaelic, sung by Arthur McCormick.
Lennev anayan, lennev mari, rukeks and stapel rinandul. Hanik donasach gulang narnache, soniat anarev vieskatlu.
It's also unknown who first decided to put Mary's poetry to the folk melody, but shortly after Mary's death, scholar and editor Lachlan McBean discovered the hymn while compiling his collection Songs and Hymns of the Gael, published in 1888. He is credited with naming the hymn tune Bunessan and translating the words into English, Child of the Manger. Quite a bit of time passed until the melody was rediscovered by the editors of the Anglican hymnal Songs of Praise. The editors were looking for uncomplicated tunes for their 1931 second edition, as many of the Victorian-era songs were too difficult for the average untrained singer. Editors Percy Dermer, Martin Shaw, and Rafe Vaughan Williams loved the Bunessan melody and thought it easy enough for even children to sing, so they commissioned English author Eleanor Farjeon to come up with lyrics for the tune. Farjeon chose to set lyrics that reflected the wonder and appreciation of the natural world. Birds, rain, sunlight, and gardens are all praised for their simplistic beauty. This message of gratitude is perfectly matched with the editor's intention for the song to be sung by children and congregations without difficulty. You may also notice that most hymnals do not have harmony parts printed for Morning is Broken. All are supposed to sing the melody. It begins with an arpeggio, outlining C major, rises one extra note above C, like the sun rising in the morning, gently taking its time to descend to the final note, right back where it began. In 1971, exactly 40 years after its first publication, English singer-songwriter Cat Stevens recorded Morning Has Broken on his album Teaser and the Firecat. The song reached number 6 on the 1972 Billboard Pop Singles chart, right below The Candyman by Sammy Davis Jr. and right above Tumbling Dice by the Rolling Stones. Stevens also added piano interludes between verses, which add a new dimension to the well-known song.
Morning has broken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning, praise for them springing fresh from the word. Sweet the rain's new fall, sunlit from heaven, like the first dew fall on the first grass. Praise for the sweetness of the wet garden, sprung in completeness where his feet pass. Mine is the sunlight, mine is the morning, born of the one light Eden saw play. Praise with elation, praise every morning, God's recreation of the new day. Morning has broken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning, praise for them springing fresh from the word.
I hope you enjoyed another edition of Hymn Time, and I want to encourage you to continue writing in your comments and feedback. In the coming weeks, I'd like to do a lightning round version of Hymn Time. So, everyone who's watching, please think of a short question you'd like to have answered regarding hymns or even just church music in general. Send your questions to music@firstpress-elcajon.org and I'll try to answer them. That's all for now. See you next time.